walk out to the show and fall at your door. We got that info for you. Touchdown on that plane and buy anything. More than just a podcast for you.
One of my favorite questions, we have something called the tweener series, and normally it's position specific, but today our tweener series is school specific. So what's the real difference between public schools and private schools when it comes to sports? Thoughts?
Funding, 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 funding. If I'm at a private school and I'm a booster or whatever, and I donate $1 million to redo the gym or to redo the field because I want my name on it, they can do that. If I'm a vendor and I want to donate to the public school, that money has to get distributed amongst the whole district. They have to share that. I can't just go to my alma mater at a school and we got 10 schools in that city and I can just donate to my school. That money has to get distributed. That's, to me, that's the biggest difference between the public schools and private schools funding.
Let me ask you this, Ms. Bryant. There was a situation here in Florida with an NFL player came out of LSU, running back. You know what we're talking about, Fournette. And there's a high school here, pretty prominent high school called Raines High School. Won a couple of state championships, big time school, public. He donated all of his career life trophies, transformed them in some gold plated things, and they revamped their whole weight room. State of the art. I don't know how they got past that one.
Did they do?
I don't know how they passed that because you have to be.
Do that.
Yeah, I don't know how you do that.
Like
Yeah,
you can do.
he got past that one.
Like,
Yeah, because I would love to
fun
you know, I think people would be more apt to helping schools individually as a group of investors or, you know, donors or what have you, instead of somebody telling you how to split their money up and then they give it to schools that don't even deserve it or worth it and they don't even really need it. And some of them don't even care about sports, you know.
Right.
So I agree, you know, they shouldn't disperse it. I think it really should be some kind of, you know, way to just allow it to happen.
Because we had my husband coached up under a coach here a couple years back. His name is Coach Lucas. Okay, his daughter is married to Gary Anthony, Cole Anthony's daddy. All right. Okay. Well, he was trying to get a jumbotron and some other things in a field house at the school. Well, they wouldn't allow him to donate it because he was able to get NBA players or whatever like that to donate the money, and they wouldn't do it because they said that they would have to distribute that across around the schools, and one school can't have something that another school can't have. Everybody has to be equal.
I think with public schools, you can have individual school fundraisers. Like I've seen public schools have like silent auctions or they sell different things. And like if you have or art shows and the money for the art show can go to that particular school. But you're quite right. I have not seen it where a particular person can donate specifically to just that school. And the money only goes to that school. There's lots of different rules. I'm going to say from my perspective, I do believe that funding is one key difference. Facilities is different for me in my experience. My children went to public school up until middle school and then switched over to private school in middle school. The facilities are very, very different. The caliber of people in your gym or your weight room could be different. Like sometimes in public schools, the credentials aren't the same. Um, in the private schools in our area, and Jordan, correct me if I'm wrong, like most of them have a strength and conditioning coach that's actually a legit, I went to school, I am a strength and conditioning coach. They have the opportunity to bring different people in as far as like professional athletes that, you know, come and do different things. So I want to say that it's funding, obviously, but facilities and caliber of people that the athletes are exposed to within an athletic program, whether it's football or whether it's basketball, soccer, it doesn't matter. You just have an opportunity to bring different people in that you wouldn't necessarily have the opportunity to bring in a public school setting.
For me,
That's
you're
good stuff.
exactly right. I would say finances, facilities, and coaching. When I say coaching, not to say that public schools don't have great coaches. What I'm saying is the number of coaches. So from what I've seen in our area, the Nashville area, some public schools have great players, but you got 4 coaches. Like where I coach at, we got 15 coaches or more. Everybody's getting individual attention specific to their position. I have 4 or 5 guys that I coach. I don't have 20 guys that I have to coach. They're getting specific attention from me exactly, and feedback. And then on top of that, I would say resources. Not everybody has huddle. Not everybody has huddle sideline and, you know, iPads on the sideline in high school. I didn't have that in high school, but we have it now. You're getting instant feedback. So I would say resources, and that goes along with funding. But definitely facilities. I mean, the stuff that some of these kids have now is I mean, indoor stuff. That's nicer high schools than some colleges. I mean, you go play at a nice high school, then you go to a Division II program or D1 AA program, and you like, man, what is this? So I would definitely say funding, facilities, and resources.
Because our school that Jordan coached at my children's school that they graduated from, and he went to school with them, and we had a 40-yard indoor field. So I mean, and I learned that that's not common for high school programs. But I was at a college when I learned that it was not common to high school programs. So definitely having the right facilities gives you flexibility to train when other schools are not able to train. It just opens the doors to a lot of different things. I want you guys as parents to take note of what we talked about in this question: resources, facilities, exposure, funding. Notice we did not say private schools recruit and public schools don't. That is the most common argument. That is such a crock that I hear in the private school, public school conversation. But notice we did not mention that at all, because it's not a thing. Not like you think it's a thing. What matters, the key differences are funding, resources, coaching, facilities. So I'm putting a pin in this, families. Listen to this segment, because some of you guys have been told that private programs are better than public programs because they're out there recruiting kids from all over, and that's not actually the truth. So next question: if your child is being recruited from a collegiate perspective, should you be concerned if there are no African American coaches or minority coaches on the coaching staff of the college that's recruiting your child? What questions should you, what questions should the parents of Black kids or other minority kids be asking when their kids are being recruited and there's no one that looks like them on the coaching staff?
Well, one is that you need to take a visit. You definitely need to do your homework. You can find out who's on that staff just by going online. And if they don't have it posted online, you know, tell them, hey, who are the coaches? You know, give me their bio. What do they provide for this university? How are they stimulating this university? How are they helping these players? You know, those are the questions I asked when I went with my son, with both of them, really. But, you know, the first one, it was easy, you know, with the second one. So, but at the end of the day, you know, those that never been through it, you got to ask those hard questions. And you don't have to pencil it out, whether it be color or not. You're going to find out it's going to slap you in the face, whether they have them or not. You just got to show that I got questions and I want to understand everything that I possibly can about your program, because my son is coming here, and you got to make sure it's a good fit for him, because sometimes we can go somewhere, only 25% of that program is a fit for him. The 75%, boy, you in trouble. And your kid can't get through it. He can't stomach it. You're just going to have issues. Can't be in a SEC, ACC, Big 10, Big 12 school all the time. You might be balling like that, but what about the real stuff? So at the end of the day, I feel though they need to ask, about the staff, ask about who the coaches are, what do they provide for the program? What do they provide for the athletes? How they stimulate it? All those questions. And then you're going to find out whether they got the color that you expect to have in their program. Trust me, you'll find out.
Okay.
Initially, I would say you may be concerned initially just because just comfort level with your kids and all those type of things. You may feel more comfortable asking coaches of color certain questions that you may not ask other coaches. But as you take your kids on visits and stuff, you will start to see that there are not many Black coaches in speaking from football perspective. It's not as many Black coaches as you would think. So that's few and far between. So if you're looking to just go somewhere where your son is going to play around Black coaches, HBCUs may be something you look into. But as far as college coaching, football coaching, it's not that many Black men out there. And from my perspective, it's a lot more defensive coaches than offensive coaches. There's a few sprinkled here and there, but coaches are going to come and go regardless of what color they are. I can tell you that. So I wouldn't go looking into any school based off of just, oh, they got these type of coaches or these type of coaches are going to come, they're going to go. And that Black guy can be replaced with a white guy next week because the Black guy got another coaching job across the country that pays him more, that's a better fit for him. So you better be looking into asking questions about the school, about the program, things that are going to stick around when coaches leave, that is not going to be determined by new people coming in, because it's a revolving door as far as college coaches sometimes. And that's what you need to be asking as far as, what are your career aspirations? What do you see yourself? Where have you been at? Is this a place you want to be at? Why do you like it here? Would you send your kids here? Those are the type of questions that should be asked, as opposed to, are you going to play my son? Do you like my son? All those type of things. Because that comes and goes. As soon as your son miss a class, or miss a workout, or drop a ball, those things change. So you need to be asking questions about things that don't change, in my opinion.
I think that's very, very valid. I think my biggest question would be, what is your graduation rate of your minority players? What's your graduation rate of them? And if they don't, again, and what if they don't meet your criteria? What is the succession rate, or what is the support that you have for them to complete their degree if they complete the 4 years that they've done, and maybe they haven't completed their degree? Do they still have access to the tutoring? Do they still have access to all the resources and stuff that you gave them when they were actually playing on the field? Those were some of the things that I would look at. And I agree with Coach too. Again, most of the time, most of the head coaches are not going to be Black. Most of the coordinators are not going to be Black. The only ones that are probably going to have a higher chance of being Black are your skills positions, your running back coach, your wide receiver coach, your DB coach. Those are the only ones that may be Black. And again, they if they're at a predominantly white school and they're not happy there, you don't know whether or not they're happy there. They could be looking, like what Coach said. So you don't know if they're not going to be there. You got to see what is going to be best for your kids with their academics. Are they going to be able to complete their degree? Are they going to be able to get the resources that they need to complete their degree? Because when push comes to a shove, if they're not going pro, they're there to get an education.
That's a key question, because one of the reasons that my child went to a service academy, as opposed to other schools where he had the opportunity to go, was life after football. Logistically speaking, in any sport, most kids, whether it's football, basketball, baseball, soccer, pick a sport, any sport, most kids are not going to play for that sport professionally. And in light of the fact that most kids are not going to play that sport professionally, for me, what was super important is what is the graduation rate? What is job placement like after they graduate? What's the 15, the 10 or 15-year snapshot of your graduates as far as their salary type? And what was huge to me is what happens if my child doesn't want to play anymore? Like, what happens if they want to walk away from the game? Or are you going to allow him or her to still stay at your institution? Are you going to help work with us for, the resources that we need from a financial perspective to ensure that we're still in school? Or are you going to throw my kid away? And most of the time, kids are just, and I'm not even just speaking football. Most of the time, kids are just thrown away when they're not a part of the program anymore. And so when we were looking at Air Force, it was top 15 for earning potential immediately after graduation. And parents, U.S. News and World Report provides a 15-year snapshot for colleges, for the top 100 colleges in the country. And it ranks the salaries that their graduates make 10 to 15 years after they graduate from those institutions. And so we looked at the 10 to 15-year snapshot, and the Air Force Academy was still top 15. So I knew that he was going to go to a school that wasn't going to throw him away if he decided that he didn't want to play football anymore. I knew that he was going to actually have one of the top 15 salaries in the country when he graduated. And I knew that 10 to 15 years after he was, out of college, if he was, he would still, as a USAFA grad, have one of the top salaries in the country. And those things were super important. The only other thing I would say, I wish I had asked, but I didn't think about, talking to other parents that are a part of the program, that have been around the coaching, that have been around the school. That was huge. That's the one thing I didn't ask for, but going forward, I would encourage every kid, every parent to go in the social space and find somebody's mama or daddy who goes to the school that you're thinking about, and ask them about the overall fit. Do the people in the community like the students that go to the school? That's a big deal in terms of how they're going to be treated when they're off campus. Do the teachers feel some kind of way? Because believe it or not, I've had moms talk to me about this. There are teachers that don't like athletes. They feel like athletes
Absolutely.
get something that other students don't get. And so those are questions that I didn't think to ask when we were doing our official visits. And I would encourage parents to go out there and make friends of the parents that are currently with students that are currently at the schools that you're thinking of, because you might say no to a school based on some of the things that you learn from the parents. So next question, we always do a parenting tip. For the past month, we've been really on FAFSA. So today we're going to talk about the nuts and bolts of what specifically do you need to fill out the FAFSA form. And for those of us who've done the FAFSA with our children or even ourselves, weigh in on how easy it was to complete the FAFSA. This is week 4 of this, parents, because what we have found as we've been out there doing our due diligence is that most parents of student athletes do not complete the FAFSA form, and you leave Pell Grant money and other monies on the table because you don't complete the FAFSA. So we're going to take a couple minutes just to talk about it. So who's completed the FAFSA on the call? Talk to us about your experience.
Well, I have. Mine's is kind of like in 3 different stages. I've noticed the changes, how the financial availability has increased for students, given the school, the state, so many other different variables. But it can be tricky at times, The first one I had to do, it was kind of real easy, but the category of it was you know, I guess you can say it didn't meet a lot of my expectations. It was just pretty much just cut and dry. This is what it is. This is what you're gonna get. XYZ, done with it. The second one, you know, obviously I did it just to see if I would get anything. And he was awarded, even though he was a full ride kid, you know, he didn't have to pay for nothing, but he still got it. But, you know, we didn't accept it because, you know, Kevin went on a full ride, you know, and I didn't want to be greedy about it. I just did it just to see. Now, at the time when I did it versus my daughter, you know, it had a lot of different variables in it that I would have expected when my daughter went through school, meaning that the state, the funding, the availability of finances that they were able to get, the do's and the don'ts, you know, it was a little bit different. But then my last one, you know, that I did, you know, he got awarded, you know, a pretty nice piece of finances, but this state was way in Missouri. So the rules changed a little bit. And then it was, you know, it wasn't a state school. It was funded by investors and, you know, alumni and, you know, the community and things like that. So kind of like a private school, you know, it's an NAI school. And, you know, all three levels of this FAFSA was different for me. But I do know this, the financial piece of it, you know, whatever state it is, it has an impact and how much money you're going to get, what kind of support you're going to get, all different type of, you know, situations with that. It's easy to do, but again, everybody's situation is different. You know, is it a single family home? You know, is the mom and dad, you know, under the same roof? How many other siblings is it? You know, did you do it on time? Did you put it in on time? You know, it's just all of these things you got to think about when you do this FAFSA, you know, because it can impact you negatively or positively. So hopefully I did a good job covering that because it's been a while since I did one.
I asked you because I wanted you to chime in. So this is where I want you to not be humble for a minute. The school that you got an award that you didn't think you were going to get an award that you turned down, what school was it?
LSU.
I highlight that, parents who are listening, because the Pell Grant is based on financial need. And some of you guys don't understand that. You do, even if you think, oh, my kid's at school X, you could still qualify for money that your kid could use to buy food, or you know, there are just a host of things that, you know, are not quite covered by some schools in the cost of admission. And you be mindful, don't think that you don't have an opportunity and that you will get nothing, because it is possible. So everyone, we keep saying this, everyone should complete the FAFSA. So anyone else want to chime in on their FAFSA experience before I give them the steps?
No, I think you should try to get as much money as you can. I like what Coach Tolliver said. So in my situation, when my daughter was coming through and we was filling out the FAFSA, I made sure I filled it out in my name because I had we were separated. We weren't in the same, we weren't together. So I made sure I filled it out because I had the lesser income so that she could maximize to get as much money as she can get. So be within the rules. Be within the rules, of course, and don't cheat. You know, definitely don't cheat, but make sure you do whatever you can to maximize as many resources that you can for your child. And you can't do that without filling out the FAFSA.
If you can get the money, get the money. It's gonna go a lot longer way than you think it is in the end. Is what I would say. You can always use the money. You know, you never know as a college student what you need. Or something you may not want to ask your coach for. That if you got a little money on the side, you can go ahead and get it and avoid the less you can ask for, and the more you can just do your job, go to class, handle those things, and I'm telling you, they got a million things going, and I hate to say it, they don't want to deal with all the extra stuff. You got a little bit of more money on the side to handle your own business and get stuff that you need for yourself, it'll go a long way.
Absolutely.
And this is the part where I say studentaid.gov That is where you go to fill out the FAFSA. It is absolutely positively free. It's gonna ask you all questions that you will have the answers to. And you will need either your taxes or an estimate of your taxes because it is based on your income. So you heard it here from coaches, from student athletes, from parents. Fill out the FAFSA, y'all. Fill out the FAFSA. It is possible. Leave no money on the table.